Hi, welcome to another edition of Cambridge Inside Out. My name is Robert Winters.
And I'm Judy Nathans.
And today is September 6th.
Yeah, day after Labor Day. It's the start of everything, I guess, right?
Actually, Harvard Extension School teaching my start was last Thursday.
That's true. You're back to teaching.
97 students, 70 of whom are high school students.
Wait, you teach 97 kids? Do you have assistants?
I have two teaching assistants,
okay,
but I get to do all the lectures. And we got 97 students.
That is amazing.
And 70 of them are high school students.
From all over the area?
All over, but this is shocking. 21 of them from Lexington High School. I'm actually thinking of contacting the people at Lexington saying, I think it's time you started offering multivariable calculus at your school.
But don't you get Cambridge high school kids?
We got 4 or 5 from Cambridge Latin High School.
More. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of from Belmont and Newton North, Newton South, yeah. And
wow, so why aren't they teaching it then? Newton North, they have more.
Well, honestly, I think we're reaching the point where they really should, because they've got so many.
Are you sure they're not, these kids just don't want more work?
They don't have it. I think I think it just looks really good as they're applying to college. Yeah,
because it says Harvard in the name too.
That's a big piece of it, sure.
And maybe you too.
Meh, I don't know about that.
Well, that's all right. So you're busy with that.
Yeah, and I start MIT lectures tomorrow. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And the first city council
all
meeting
this
won't
political
be till next
civic
Monday.
stuff is just a hobby.
That's true. He does all this besides teaching.
Right.
There is a primary this week, but other than that, the main city council calendar.
Yeah, we'll speak to some of the details of that in a moment. Actually, let's just at least say that straight away.
Yeah.
This is the state primary.
Yeah, Thursday.
Right, which happens every 2 years, and this is the one on. It's a strange day. It's
but
Thursday,
you know why? I heard him talk, Alvin.
Yeah.
Because he felt people would be distracted on Tuesday, the first day of school, and that a lot of the schools are polling places.
Yes.
So it makes sense.
Okay, no, there's logic to it.
And I think they still won't vote, but hey, let's move it to a Thursday when at least the kids are in school and things are settled.
There is at least one very prominent political watcher who's in the news, who actually I saw him on Facebook. He says he only realized it was Thursday like 2 days ago. This is somebody who's sort of in the know, so I won't mention his name.
Better it should be later than earlier, because then you won't miss it.
So anyway, it's Thursday, September 8th. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Right.
Citywide, all polls across Cambridge. There have been some changes, but let's not go into those details.
Does it affect every Cambridge resident? Because we each have somebody running somewhere or not?
In principle, it affects every Cambridge resident. But this being Massachusetts, almost all races have candidates running unopposed. So it's really boring.
Right.
There are some contests for example, Governor's Council, for those who really care about that.
Oh, right.
I'm not one of them. And for several state rep races.
What about sheriff?
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know.
Sheriff, deputy dog. Yeah.
Right, but you do have. I mean, the ones
Barney
that
5.
maybe you could. Yeah, the ones that are unchallenged. Let's just talk about the ones that have challengers.
Yeah. So the competitive ones are. I guess the one that's actually drawing a lot of attention in a broader sense is the state senate race with Pat Jalen.
Right.
Incumbent, and the challenger is City Councilor Leland Chung.
Yes, our own city councilor.
Yeah, and the one thing I mean, it's a state senate district, so it's 4 times the size of a state rep district.
Second Middlesex, it says.
Yeah, second Middlesex district. And I mean, I was a moderator for one of the candidate forums, and I wrote the questions for the other one.
You can watch on your site.
Actually,
or at
I was
CCTV,
a panelist for the other.
Right?
Yeah. So those are all very accessible. But one thing that became very apparent right at the very first meeting that I was at was that the charter school question 2 about lifting the cap.
Right.
I'm ashamed to admit that I don't actually know all the particulars of the question, other than it means more charter schools more easily.
Well, no, actually, one thing it said that it's actually only allows more schools in places where there's it's quoted in here somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually it's not the suburban kind of well-to-do places where the charter schools seem to be thriving in Massachusetts.
Right.
Elsewhere in the country, it may be a completely different matter.
Okay,
but
here.
Massachusetts tends to be the urban school districts where parents maybe are seeking more choice, more good choice.
It says Leland Chung backs it because the specifics cite priority for schools in lowest performing districts.
Right.
So again, I don't know how many are allowed. That I'd have to look more
Right.
studying.
What's kind of interesting about that race is that it has, in many respects, become something of a proxy war between proponents for lifting the cap on charter schools,
Right.
meaning more pro-charter school
Like
forces.
a one-issue thing, which
Yeah, and the
is kind of
anti.
unfortunate.
So
Yeah.
there's some national groups
Yeah.
that are very much in favor of promoting charter schools as an alternative. And there are some other entities, like some of the teachers' unions, for example, who are pretty solidly
the
opposed.
basic one, Massachusetts Teachers
Massachusetts Teachers
yeah, that's a big
Association,
one.
right.
They're the ones putting the most money against it.
Right. So it
Yeah.
turned. It was quite. It's been kind of interesting the last week or two, where
Yeah.
apparently, and I don't have the time or interest to pursue all of
Yeah.
this, but something in excess of $100,000 apparently pouring into a lonely little state senate race. This one.
Right.
From people who are in favor of lifting the cap. So apparently, money from around the country seems to be finding its way into
Democrats
these
for
little whistle
Education
stops.
Reform. I don't know if it's a national group, but
Yeah, and I think it actually spurred what I thought was rather a clever response from Pat Jalen. All right, and I'm not speaking pro or con against either candidate. I think they're
Yeah.
both wonderful candidates, but it was interesting how Pat Jalen actually responded to this $115,000 inflow of cash in support of Chung, I think.
Yeah.
At least so they say.
Yeah.
By challenging the since my opponent is clearly not Mr. Chung, it's actually this entity.
Right.
So she challenged
Wow.
the entity to a debate.
to a debate. When was that?
I think it was like last week sometime.
But nothing's come
I
of
think
it.
they did it on. It might have been just on a radio
Okay.
station. I don't know, but anyway, I thought it was kind of a
Yeah.
clever thing
Yeah.
to sort of say, well,
How long has she been in that seat?
you should know she said it, and I'm ashamed to
She's
say it.
popular though, right? Or is
I
it-
think she's pretty popular, and and we'll talk about this with another one of the races as well. That there is sort of I think the burden is really on the challenger when you have an incumbent who's generally done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
To make the case why you
should make a
would be
change.
better. I mean,
Right.
the default position is usually, well, if things are okay, you don't make a change. So,
Right.
so the challenger really has to make a case.
Right.
And apparently, on most issues, it's not so easy to distinguish the candidates. They're all pretty
Yeah,
much
they're-
left of
they're
center
Democrats.
right?
Right.
We love everybody.
Yeah.
We'll find a way to pay for it
Right.
all some other day.
Right.
Kind of folks.
Yeah.
But the charter school question is what really distinguishes them.
Yeah.
So that's become the issue. It really is like a proxy war. So who knows how it's going to go?
Yeah.
I mean, voter turnout is a little unpredictable on these things when there's.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like you have Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump on the ballot at the primary. It's basically
Right.
in some districts it's like nobody on the ballot.
Right, but you're going to bring out the people. If
yeah.
they're doing their job, they'll bring out their
So
supporters.
it's these
Yeah.
particular candidates
Right.
and how well are they going to bring out their supporters.
Right.
And I really can't make a prediction on that.
And the other
The other
race
competitive
Yes.
one, actual competitive one,
is a house.
that's the House race between Representative Tim Toomey,
Also a city councilor.
also a city council. He's from
But
the
he's the
26th
incumbent
Middlesex.
versus the
He's the
challenger,
incumbent, and the
yeah.
challenger is Mike Connolly, who was
Right.
who actually ran against him 4 years ago. In
Right.
2012, he
Oh.
was he was I guess after 13 he was going to run for council. He sent out word and then he backed out.
And then
And then in
decided to run for this.
14 into 15 he
Yeah.
served as city council aide for Dennis Carlone, but then he ran for council in 15. Now he's running for state rep in
Mm-hmm. Right.
16. So
Okay, wow.
apparently he likes running for office.
Yes.
So anyway, that's competitive. That's a competitive election. Again, as I said about the Jalen Chung race, the burden is on the challenger, as is generally the case, to make the case why there needs to be a change.
There's also, there was a panel with them too, that's
Yeah.
available on your site.
Yeah,
Yes?
I wrote most of the questions for it. I
Right.
wasn't one of
You weren't
the
the panel,
panelists,
right.
but
I think Susanna
Sagat
Yeah,
and Don Norton, Norton from Somerville
Yeah,
Times.
so if you're
doing that
in
one.
those districts, either one, I would suggest watching
Yeah.
that if you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, the issue, I don't know how real this is, but I think
Yeah.
it needs to be at least be said, though. There was the sort of the leftovers from the Bernie Sanders gang.
Yeah.
formed a national organization that
Wow.
calls itself Our Revolution. I think you were mandatory holding up of the fist when you say that, right? And they were officially formed in the morning, and by evening they'd already announced endorsements all the way down to the state rep race in Massachusetts, because, well, we know how politics really works, which is, we stick up for our buddies, right?
So
Anyway, so
is there a dying issue between these two?
they differ on some issues. I think
The charter school thing isn't an issue for them?
on the legalization of recreational marijuana.
Oh, okay.
Toomey's skeptical, says he wants a little more. Connolly, who's gung-ho for that.
Okay, so that's a ballot. Okay.
Yeah, on the charter school, they're both opposed, but each one is sort of, they're jockeying
Connolly's
for...
opposed.
Yeah, for lifting of the cap. But they were sort of jockeying for position, saying, no, I'm more opposed than you are.
'Cause they agree, yeah.
So
all right.
it's sort of a nonsense
Yeah.
thing. I think it's really a matter of like who's your
Yeah.
friends, right?
Yeah,
And
but
who's
this
bringing out your
but
friends.
the money issue is interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of this is real, but over at least the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of days, there were some kind of cutting article, letters to the editors were put out kind of targeting Toomey. And then apparently there was an anonymous mailing. Nobody likes anonymous mailings.
What makes it anonymous?
It doesn't say who sponsored it. And now
Wow.
the word on the street is that the money came from this Our Revolution PAC, which is the Sanders thing.
Our Revolution. That
Yeah,
sounds very
but it is,
ominous.
I mean, and I think Councilor Toomey, State Representative Toomey, maybe
Yeah.
he's overstating it a little bit, but he's saying,
Yeah.
well, this is clearly a case of dark money,
Oh, come on.
right? I mean, I think it's a little overstated, but the point is that if you're a candidate like Connolly,
Yeah.
who ran previously under the name Mike No Money Connolly and clean
Yeah.
elections and whatever, it's a little tough
Hypocritical,
when you're
yeah.
basically getting funded from
Right.
outside that way. And again, I think State Representative Toomey his campaign was referring to this as a super PAC. I don't think technically that's correct, but it is a political action committee. You know,
So people that are in
the-
that
the-
got those mailings?
yeah, there was a citywide mailing came out in the last couple of days to respond to the previous one, the anonymous
Well,
one.
not citywide. I mean, I didn't get it.
I don't mean to say district-wide.
District-wide,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So anyway, that's sort of becoming kind of a late-breaking
Yeah,
issue to
wow.
determine that. So anyway, it's all going to be settled on Thursday.
Yeah.
And I honestly can't predict. I mean, usually advantage goes to the incumbent, but we'll see.
The results should be pretty fast because it's not a PR election.
That's right. Actually, that's right. But in order to find out, I mean, I could go up, anybody
Yeah.
could go up to the senior center to get the late breaking word
Yeah.
on the Cambridge results, but there's a
Right.
portion of the Toomey district is in Somerville, so then you also have to get the
As with
word.
the Jalen, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I've been at some of these things. I don't usually go to them, but
No.
what you have is people with cell phones. They're
Yeah.
getting,
Yeah, they get
what's the latest
yeah,
up in
yeah.
2-1? Tell me
Yeah.
what we got up there. And then everybody's
Yeah,
trying to
sure.
outdo each other with predictions.
All right, so that's happening. So don't forget to vote if that's your, if those are your reps and
Yeah.
Senate people.
Actually, I thought maybe we could just mention something here. It's sort of a non-political
I'm glad you printed that
piece
out,
here. One of the things that's really kind of a privilege about living in Cambridge is that
Mm-hmm.
you live around a lot of people who have who lead very illustrious
Yeah.
lives. Some of whom you may know, and some of whom you may not know.
Mm-hmm.
Big professors, Nobel Prize winners, and
Yeah.
whatever. So I often will take note when there's somebody passes away, right? So
Mm-hmm.
one person who apparently passed away this past Thursday is a woman named Ruth Hubbard, right? We just sort of, it was,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the picture here, but I'm not thinking.
yeah, we don't need to do that, but Brian Marquardt, who writes obituaries for the Boston
Oh,
Globe.
he
did
wrote that one, okay,
He's
yeah, 'cause I
great.
have it here.
He did
Yeah,
the one for
he does
Lillian
very good
Steele.
ones.
It was some months
Lillian
ago.
Steele,
I mean,
who's
he's
that?
actually quite poetic in the way he writes.
Oh, he's
This
wonderful.
This one's just pretty much factual.
You're right,
It's wonderful.
Brian,
But
yeah.
Ruth Hubbard died at age of 92. Was the first woman tenured in biology at Harvard
Yeah.
University. But in addition to being a biology professor of some renown, she was also very actively involved in anti-war activities, was a prominent feminist, a critic of science, and later raised privacy concerns in the debate over genetic research. So she's a very, very interesting person,
Yeah.
and she passed away at age of 92 this past Thursday.
Right, I
September
just want to read
1st.
something real quickly, because she did not, it wasn't until 1969 that she saw protesters about women in science, and she said that she hadn't realized that there was discrimination because she was a scientist, and then she realized that I really thought men were smarter, more interesting, better company, and I played up to them, reflecting on how she lived her life until the late 1960s. I had one woman friend, so she really did make a big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, as I say, it is a privilege to live in
Yeah.
Cambridge, where you get to live cheek to jowl with people like
You know
this.
who also died? I realized that was. Do you remember Ben Thompson, who was a noted architect? He started Design Research Associates, which is now anthropology in the school.
Okay, yeah. That was a real.
He died about 12 years ago, and his wife Jane Thompson, who was a person in her own right, she died last week. So
Yeah.
she was also about 90 something. So
Yeah, it's an
we have
amazing
some-
city
yeah.
to live in.
the arts, everything.
Now, moving on from that, one of the things I think we were sort of touting this in our programs some weeks ago.
Oh.
Was
Talking about the baseball.
yeah, the baseball game. So Steve Buckley, born and bred in Cambridge,
Another one, right?
sports writer for the Boston Herald and an all-around great guy. He's sort of the main person who makes happen the old time baseball game, which happens every August.
Yeah.
I believe they just had their 23rd.
Wow.
Something like 23rd. I've been probably to half of them when I first
It's
found out
amazing.
about
I've
it.
been to a couple.
But anyway, that was great time. It was actually a competitive game. Too.
Yeah?
Sometimes it's a blowout. It was actually a real
Is
close
it a
game.
mixture of young kids and old timers?
You know,
literally?
there's actually there was actually a father-son combo on one of the
Oh,
teams.
nice.
There was one person on team I think she played.
Is a woman?
Yeah, it was Lindsay Berra, Yogi Berra's granddaughter.
No.
Yeah. So she was
Wow.
in the game,
Oh, I didn't know it was co-ed.
yeah, and there's actually a lot of college ball players. Some of them are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So I love going to the game. It's a real Cambridge event. You meet you catch up with a lot of people there. The person who does the play-by-play, over the microphones, there is Glenn Kuchar.
Oh, he does the play-by-play.
Yeah, Glenn Kuchar, who was the creator of Cambridge InsideOut, the original.
The original, which you've aired a couple of those shows.
We are merely the sequel.
Right.
Glenn was joking around with me
Yeah.
the other day, saying you got to use the name for 2 years. After that, you have to start paying royalties. So.
Yeah, we hope to have him as a guest one of these days.
Yeah, definitely. Glenn is currently the executive director of the Massachusetts Association of School Committees.
Right.
So he's quite expert on such matters.
Yeah.
They actually honored outgoing city manager Richie Rossi, recently retired recreation director.
Oh, they honored him at the game?
Paul Ryder. And
Nice.
the person who really ran the the Danahy Park athletic facilities, a fellow named Bob O'Loughlin, who just recently retired.
Oh, wow. A lot of retirements this year.
So they honored these three
Yeah.
individuals. The one thing I really have to say, though, is that the real star, I think he got the most valuable player award for the game, was Cameron Cam Monagle, who is, he had a towering home run.
Wow.
And he is the son of the Cambridge City Auditor, Jim Monagle. So,
Nice.
so we've got some real serious baseball in the city
Yes,
administration. So that was really it was just a great night, actually. Coming up, not this weekend, I might as well actually mention something. This weekend on Sunday is the Cambridge Carnival, right? The Caribbean Carnival, which, it's a little, if you like scantily clad folks and the smell
I like
of
the
marijuana.
parade. It goes right down River Street.
Yeah,
right past
and a
my
big
daughter's
parade,
house.
very showy.
But it ends up in Kendall, which is
It ends
sort
up
of
in
an odd
Kendall,
place,
and to be perfectly honest, there
Yeah.
has been some
Yeah.
incidents in some past years, so you have to be a little watchful about that. But that's actually happening this Sunday.
It's on Sunday. Okay.
And the following Saturday, which is September 17th, is the 21st. I can't believe it's the 21st annual Danahy Park Family Day, sort of the diametric opposite of the Caribbean Festival in many respects.
Why?
Well, this is one's a sort of family oriented, the other one is
But
like,
they still get a lot of people that aren't in Cambridge. So,
yeah, that's
in that
true.
sense, but it is a nice event.
It is an event. It's 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, September 17th. On the cities, maybe we'll give more details next week, but
Right.
There's city actually facilitates transportation if you need to ride up there and whatever.
Free hot dogs and drinks.
Yeah, actually, what's really kind of fun about the family day is that the city manager, the school superintendent,
become the wait
big
staff.
shot become the wait staff, and they serve your food. It's
Yeah.
really kind of a nice
Yeah.
turnaround there.
It is.
Oh, actually, one thing about election related I thought I'd mention,
Yeah.
because one of the things I do prior to every election is I get the most current registered voter database. I got the latest street listing. I have all the voter histories. I mean, who voted going all the way back to
Yeah, I like that.
1997. So here's just a few little fun facts. Take it for what it's worth. There are actually currently 67,450 registered voters in Cambridge.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. But now remember, a lot of them may not really be here. There's
Yeah.
inactive voters. There's some rules under the motor voter law that basically makes it a little difficult to remove them if they move away. You have to go through one full
Sure.
state election cycle.
So that sounds like it's a little bit bloated.
It's actually much more than I think are really voting. But of the 67,450, there are 38,238 Democrats compared to 2,712 Republicans. So that's like, I
But
don't
the
know.
unenrolled is a significant amount.
And there's 25,814 unenrolled.
Yeah, we call unenrolled the really
Right.
independents.
I think if you were an unenrolled and you vote in a primary, you pull a ballot,
You have
then
to
you-
then
you then
unenroll.
become registered with that party
Exactly.
then,
Unless you
and
let
then
them know.
but a lot of people then unenroll on the way out, which you can do
Right.
too. Anyway,
So
that's,
how many, all right, I'm curious, in all of the years you have followed elections, what's the highest vote ever in Cambridge for any election?
Meaning
Let's say
number of people who
Obama,
vote?
would that be the highest?
Probably yes.
Was it over 40,000? No.
Yeah,
It was?
I think so.
Wow.
The thing is that what typically happens is that the registered voter list tends to rise in a presidential election year.
Okay.
And then dribbles away until the next one. So it, 3, 2, 1.
So of
and
this
then back
figure,
again.
you can still register for the national election right now.
You still can,
until
yeah.
Sometime in October, right?
So,
And we'll
sometime
announce that, 'cause
mid-October.
that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just curious, how many people really vote in this city out of registered eligible
It
people?
really matters a lot from election to election. The
Right.
presidential election, it'll be a high number.
Right, 'cause the municipal, what was it, about 17,000 the last time?
The thing
Yeah.
is, it's always misleading because how many are active voters, how many are technically registered voters, but they're not really here. And so you can do your statistics either way on
But
that
the
one.
municipal ones, you never get more than 20, do
You
you?
used to, but now it's been dwindling away.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the vicinity of between 17 and 18,000 people will vote in a municipal election.
Yeah.
Which, considering how many people who are actually living here consistently year after year who might be expected to have interest in municipal elections, that's actually not as bad a number as
Oh, I
some
don't
people
know,
make
we
it
have
out.
100,000 people.
I know, but the thing is that it's one thing. Everybody knows a little bit about what's happening in the presidential level, maybe
Yeah.
even in the gubernatorial elections.
Yeah,
But in municipal elections, people come; they don't even know about this.
well, it's
for
also
one.
our way of electing is confusing to
I
some
don't know that it's
You don't think it's
so
that?
confusing.
PR?
A little bit to some, but I think the main thing is that it's just not on their radar. And you have to
Yeah.
kind of live here for a little while before
Right.
it becomes on your radar. And
Yeah.
so many people only live here for a short time and go away.
Well, that's become
That
more than
the
normal,
kind of
yeah.
permanent population is
Right.
probably closer to 25,000-30,000 than,
Well, I think that's why a lot of candidates have really focused on young people, students, because they
Yeah,
get them
well,
to the vote, and
I
even
mean,
if they leave, you still get their
the
vote.
way you always the logic of these campaigns was you vote for the most likely voters, which are people who have been known to vote. But in Cambridge, that
Yeah.
logic sometimes gets turned
Right.
on its head because there's so many newly registered voters that
Right.
it becomes, and they're not committed to anybody. So
Right.
therefore,
They're ripe
in
for
principle,
the
they're
yeah.
ripe for the picking.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works in most places.
No.
Usually, if there's people who don't vote, then why
You're not
campaign
gonna
for
be-
them,
right,
right? But in campaigning
Yeah.
in Cambridge sometimes be
Sure.
switched in that regard.
Hmm.
So anyway, so that's I thought those was some interesting
Those
things.
are very,
Oh, actually, there's one other little fact that I thought just as we're winding down on the first
Yeah.
hour here, you might get a little bit of a kick out of. I forget where I actually have it written down here, but
Good.
one of the little tests I have just to make sure my databases are all working correctly is I have a test where I say how many people have never missed an election since
Oh, you have that
1997.
yeah.
You know, and I
You
run
did
that
this
through.
before, and I thought I hadn't, but you told me I'd missed a few.
Right.
You actually could look it up.
Yeah, so I run it, and
Yeah.
in fact, so out of the 67,450
Yeah.
registered voters,
Uh-huh.
how many of them haven't missed an election since
Citywide
citywide elections since 1997? And the answer is 141 people.
And you know who they are?
I know 58 of them,
You know that.
and I'm one of them. That's
but you
why.
know them, meaning you know those names. You've seen the names.
No, actually, well, a few of them I don't.
No,
I can't say
141.
they're like buddies and pals, but I know.
No,
who they
but you
are.
know, you have the names of these 141 people. It's public knowledge, right? Oh, you've got. All right, we're acting like Snowden here. All right, put it down.
I know.
Okay, but that's interesting. All right.
Yeah. No, it's actually one of those things where some of the political people say, "I want that list," because
Yeah,
they say,
they're,
"Oh,
they're
I'm
like
going to."
golden.
They
Yeah.
are, but on the other hand,
Are they dead yet? Any of them?
not
I mean-
these folks here. But the numbers have been
Wow.
going down.
Look at that,
But-
Henrietta. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
She's a voter. She's
Yeah,
a loyal one.
I no, believe me. But
Well, actually,
choice
that's
voters.
141. Those aren't the 58.
This is the 141.
Right, so we don't know if
Yeah,
it's all-
I won't say who the ones I know are.
All
but
right.
Most of them.
All right.
All right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So and that's also a little bit of fun here.
Yeah.
Well, we got 1 minute left in this
Okay.
segment here. I'll just sort of to cue it up for what we'll maybe
Yeah,
talk
what are
about
you
at
going
the
to talk
start.
about in the next?
I actually like to say a few things about that. Remember, we kind of promoted these couple of city council committee
Oh, right.
hearings that were election
About
related.
voting.
I mean, maybe we're sort of obsessing on elections because the primary is
Well,
on Thursday.
And,
right?
and it's a presidential election year.
Yeah. So there were committee meetings. First one was on voter rewards. Basically paying people to vote in one way or another. And the second one was on campaign finance reform and something like that having to do with municipal
So
elections.
you're going to be able to tell us a little bit. You went to both of them?
I went to both of them, spoke
Okay,
to
good.
both of them, and,
All right,
and
so we'll talk about that.
We'll touch on that a
Great.
bit, yeah. So
Okay.
anyway, so we're down to our last 15 seconds here, so we'll do that and some other fun
Yeah.
things
Right.
in the next half hour.
Right.
So anyway, until then, this has been Cambridge
Inside
Out.